Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lever Movement podcast. My name is Evan Schwartz, hosting the show. Today I am joined by Becki Spellman. Becki, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I think it's always a very small world because we know each other from years and years ago.
Yep.
And now that we get to cross paths again at Lever, I always think that's a very, very funny part of the running world. Today, we're going to talk about all your accomplishments, but then also how you were a very, very early adopter to running with body weight support. And I would say that you are definitely one of the most qualified people from the coaching and athlete side. So we're super excited to get your perspective on that. The thing that I would like to start off talking about is your general running accomplishments, but
Mhm.
how did you get into running? That's the thing that I think that I'm always most curious about. So I would love to hear about that.
Yeah. I have a sister who's older than me by 10 months. I was born 2.5 months early. So we're really close in age. And I just did anything. Her name's Liz. I did anything that Liz did. I really just followed along and wanted to do what she did. So she ran track in 7th grade. So I started running just to do something with her. And I thought I'd be a 200-meter runner. And I was a little cocky in the gym class mile and ran like 6:14. And they were like, oh no, you're going to run the mile from now on. And I think I ran 2 meets where I ran like the 200 and did the long jump or something. And I was like, absolutely not. That's ridiculous. But my coach put me in the mile and 800 for the next meet, and I won them both, and I was kind of hooked from there. So gave me something of my own, I think, really for the first time, like something I was good at that wasn't just following Liz, because my sister's very athletic and extremely competitive, far more competitive of a human than I am. So it was kind of nice that we weren't in the same events.
Yeah, I think that's always a funny story. A lot of people, maybe that end up running distance or cross country in high school or college, they like, I was a soccer player, or oh, I wanted to do the sprints and stuff, but your natural talent and ability and hard work kind of shines through, and you just crush people in that gym class mile
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stuff. So you went from running track like middle school, high school to running in college, I imagine too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Ran middle school. Didn't start cross country till 8th grade, but ran middle school track and cross country, and then high school at Marlington, and then I went to the University of Akron, where I ran 1,500 mile indoors, 1,500 outdoors, and the steeplechase.
Very cool. What was your sort of progression getting into the longer distance events, going from starting out with, a 200 or a long jump? What was your progression to building up to the marathon and the road racing?
Yeah, so coming out of college, I worked at Second Soul in Akron, and a man, Matt Woods, also worked there, and he's an exercise physiologist, owns a lab, and he was like, if you need help with coaching or whatever, I'd love to help you. So he started helping me out racing like 5K, 10K, and he's like, do you want to do some testing? Like, I'll do it for free. And I was like, I mean, that's awesome, absolutely. I ended up scrounging up a little money to pay him, but not much. But just to like show gratitude. But so he did VO2 max testing, lactate threshold testing, all kinds of stuff. And he was like, well, you're never going to be a world-class miler. And I remember I laughed at him and said, that's okay. Like 5K, 10K is still fun, even though like I really love the mile. Like deep down, like I joke, like I should have prayed very clearly to God that I wanted to be like a miler, not just a runner. But but Matt was like, started laughing and was like, no, try the marathon. And I was like, absolutely not. No way. Absolutely no chance. I will never run that far. That doesn't even sound fun. I don't want to race a distance I don't think I can race. And he was like, give it, people race it, Becki. Like, it's something you can do. And I thought he was absolutely insane. So he asked me to run a half marathon. This would have been, it was probably about 6 months into working with him that he was like, you should try the half marathon. So I was like, fine, okay, I'll give it a try. And I think I ran like 124 or something along those lines. And he, off of pretty minimal training. And he was like, yeah, I mean, I really think this is where it is for you. So that kind of spurred me along to sign up for my first marathon. I ended up getting injured, getting ready for that. So I got to do 2 marathon cycles to get ready for my first marathon. So
And what was your first marathon and how did it go?
yeah, I ran Austin Marathon in 2008. I had to beg my way into the elite field because I didn't have a time. And I was like, I know, like, I sound crazy, but like, please give me this shot. And John Conley, the race director, was very kind. And he was just like, fine, I can't pay for anything, but you can come run in the elite field. It's a really hard course. It's not like the old course used to be like this big net downhill, and they had to change it. So it's actually a very hilly course. And I was like, it's okay. I live in a really hilly place. I'm fine with that. I just need the opportunity, because we were at that point, it was February of 2008, and the Olympic trials were April 21st, I think, of 2008. So I knew I was on crunch time if I was going to try and get the standard. And I needed to run under 246, and I ran 2:43:42. So I hit the standard and qualified for my first Olympic trials in that race. So I was second. And so John was very kind and apologetic, which was unnecessary, but yeah, it was a great day.
And he was like, yeah, I probably made the right decision, listening to Becky and giving her that start
Yeah.
spot. So you talked about starting with those really short distances and stuff and moving up to half and full, working with coaches, making the Olympic trials. You've also made more than just the 2008 Olympic trials. Which Olympic trials marathons have you qualified for?
2008, 2012, 2016, and 2020.
Absolutely amazing. I think that is like one of the coolest things. Like, I have run one of them and remember seeing you there in 2020, but to qualify for Olympic trials is just amazing, and especially speaks to longevity overall in the
Yeah.
sport. And I want to maybe switch gears and talk about you as a coach and athlete at the same time too, because you mentioned started working with a coach that got you a little bit more specific with testing and
Mhm.
maybe changed training approaches. How have you progressed into coaching athletes as well while still being a full-time athlete yourself as well?
Yeah, so I started out coaching just like some local people at the running store that wanted some help, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I really liked watching them, getting to see them tackle their goals and accomplish them. And I've always really been a student of the sport. I really like the science behind it. I really appreciate, all the people before us that have come and just, made this trail that's a lot easier to follow than it used to be. So
Mhm.
I read a lot. I don't believe everything I read, but I do I read a lot. I take in a lot. I'm just very curious about things. I'm still that way. And so I really liked being able to see, like, okay, we tried something, it didn't work. Let's try something else. And just seeing like how there are different types of runners out there. There are different types of people. And sometimes there are different things that work in different times. And it was really fun for me to kind of see how to piece those things together.
Mhm.
So I guess the first few athletes were guinea pigs, and after that, I just started working with people online. And then I got a coaching job at Wright State. I coached there for a few years, and then I got divorced. So I moved back home. Just couldn't afford to stay there on my salary. So, and I decided, well, I'll start coaching online while I'm working at the running store, because that had become a more prevalent thing at the time. And I started with maybe like 4 athletes, and now I have, 40 hours of work a week to do and then some. So, yeah, it's really just progressed. And I still make mistakes. I still have to like be like, well, this isn't working. We got to try something new. But there's still like I love that. I love being able to do that and to explain to a person why I thought it didn't work and what I think could be beneficial. And oftentimes we're right. And if we change things up, we can, find the results we're looking for. So I think it's fascinating to watch it, and and really to see people's confidence, even just in like their day-to-day life, change as they become more and more, they believe more and more in what, uh, the people around them see in them.
Mhm. Have you incorporated anything in your own training that you've then like passed on to your athletes or vice versa too? So you've been at it a long time, qualifying for 4 Olympic trials marathons, talking about working with that first coach who implemented some testing, which a lot of people are
Mhm.
coming back to, those more physiological measures now too. But have you, you said you made mistakes, but also I imagine had a lot of successes incorporating different things. Is there anything that kind of jumps to your mind that you've tried over the years?
Yeah, some of the things that, well, obviously the lever, I've been using that. I mean, you kind of know that story, but I
Mhm.
guess everyone doesn't. So
Mhm.
like just using the lever, showing it to athletes who are have chronic injury issues, or showing it to athletes that really want to like take a, get to the next level in the sport. And um, it's a good way to do it. We can talk more
Mhm.
about that in a
Mhm.
minute here, but and also functional movement screening. That's one thing I've really encouraged athletes to do. Let's figure out where your weak points are before we find them,
Right.
hopefully. And really get a professional eye on it to see like, okay, these are things that will really benefit you working. I think those things have been huge in helping, my athletes. And I learned that the hard way after coming back from pregnancy. I broke my sacrum because I had no idea that my core wasn't functioning because of the trauma. I had just like my transverse abdominis had just completely shut off. And
Mhm.
that's really how I figured out like the whole functional movement thing. And then working with women postpartum, I like to use my personal mistakes to save them the heartache of, rushing back and kind of making, quick movements that they don't want to do, and teaching them how to engage their core correctly and be able to do those things. So I think that those things have been really beneficial in terms of like what I've done wrong for myself, and then changing it and seeing other things other athletes do. Um, I'm sure there are a lot of things I've learned from my athletes in particular. Oh, yeah. As I'm aging, I'm 38, so I'll be 39 here in not long.
Mhm.
And so, just learning how to change the training cycle, how to either, I don't like a 10-day cycle personally. I know athletes that do, and I believe in a 10-day cycle, but I hate doing my long run on Wednesday. Like that just doesn't compute. I can't make myself do it. So, and I get really like anxiety ridden for it. But I've learned, okay, I do need more rest days in there. I can't just hammer out, speed work, tempo run, and hard long run every week. So
Mhm.
I implemented doing like Tuesday speed, Friday tempo, Sunday long easy, and then the following week, Wednesday speed and Saturday long tempo. And
Mhm.
I was able to stay healthy that way. So, and I like tend to gain fitness a lot faster instead of just beating my head against the wall. So without working with older, that sounds mean to say use that word, but athletes that are more mature than me, I don't think I would have necessarily seen it or really taken the time to think about like, hey, what things can we implement aside from a 10-day or 9-day cycle that could work?
Mhm. It sounds, I mean, as you've accrued years of coaching and expertise in that like your horizons have gotten broadened too. Cause I
Mhm.
feel like, I feel this every day as I get, talk to more runners, talk to people with different training strategies that like some people do stuff that you're just like, I never would have considered that. And it's almost like a fun thing to hear, people are doing more sort of different things too. I have kind of like a two-part question. You kind of talked briefly about your current training schedule. But before
Mhm.
we talk about that, I'm curious how you started using lever and what kind of led you to exploring body weight support for yourself, because that's a personal decision to try something. Like I mentioned, you were a very early adopter, but try something that not a lot of people were trying. But what led you to using lever starting out?
Yeah. So I had like some I've had chronic Achilles tendonitis on and off for since high school. So a
Mhm.
very long time. And in 20, wait, what year was it? 29? Yeah, 2019. I had this thing just wouldn't go away. It was worse than it had ever been. And I ended up having surgery on it, and it was torn. So
Mhm.
I didn't know I had a tear. They had done MRIs and it didn't show up, and they missed it or were unable to see it. So, I needed to do something, and I'm in a PT office running on an Ultra G, wildly uncomfortable. I feel like my bladder is going to explode, and there are like 30 people doing their PT exercises around me, and I'm just like, how embarrassing is it going to be to get off this treadmill 12 times to pee? And I hated it. It gave me a ton of anxiety again, and I have a theme here. And so I was like, I don't. there's got to be something out there that I can use. And it happened that one of Dathan Ritzenhein's athletes, Emily Oren, had posted like herself in a gym on a lever. And I was like, what in the heck is that? Like, and so I look it up and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. And I was thinking about getting one, and they reached out to me to do like a collaboration thing. And I was like, oh my gosh, absolutely 100%. I want to do this. And yeah, so I got my lever and I trained pretty much exclusively for the 2020 Olympic trials coming back from that surgery, because the surgery was in the very end of August. So I didn't have a lot of time. And I mean, I made pretty good progress. I was not ready to run a fast marathon, but I made really good progress, and I was really happy to feel like I was on the starting line, with a chance.
Mm-hmm. And your, kind of incorporation stuff, I think is really interesting for people that haven't seen it on the Lever site. There's a blog about how you talk from going, pretty much zero, building all the way back up to 100% outdoor running. And you mentioned making mistakes previously, but I feel like making a mistake is just going through trial and error and figuring out what works, and the documentation and kind of your story about how you incorporate stuff is super motivating, but also it's the heavy lifting for people to figure out how you might actually incorporate stuff once you are healthy too. So the question I'm kind of curious, as you're training for races, you're mixing indoor and outdoor running, can you give us a general overview of how you maybe go through 7-day cycle, 14 days, just general kind of training that you're doing right now?
Yeah. So right now I use the lever the day after my long run. So if we'll say Monday is always the day after my long run for this example here, or I can do 2 weeks. But so Monday I would use the lever so that I get in 6 to 8 easy miles, and I'm not moving at a snail pace. So the neurological system is working a little differently, and I'm getting a little feedback there, which is good. But I'm not taxing my body. I'm not asking my sore, tired body to run 7-minute pace, or a pace that it couldn't run, and stay healthy. And then on Tuesday I usually do a speed workout, so that will be outside, generally something like this week I did 12 400s and then a mile at goal marathon pace. And then and then Tuesday night I'll do another lever session, just like 30 minutes, easy run, which is about 30-ish seconds faster than my easy run would be outside. Then Wednesday is just like a longer, a medium long run. So like right now is like 10 to 12. And then Thursday, pretty light, easy run. Friday, I'll do a tempo session, something like 6 to 8 miles at marathon pace or a little faster. And then Saturday, I'll use the lever again, and just try to recover. And I'll use the lever for like half of my runs that day, and then the other half I'll do outside. So I'm on my legs and on the lever. And then Sunday, I would do my long run again. Now, if I'm doing the opposite week, so that I'm doing a Saturday long run, I'll use the lever on Sunday to recover fully, just like I did Monday the week prior. And I'll use the lever sometimes for that speed work also. So maybe I'll warm up outside and cool down outside if I feel good. Sometimes cooling down outside is a bad idea because I just feel really lethargic coming off the lever. But then I can do some over speed work without really taxing my muscles, and I can do work at marathon pace or at mile pace for 800 meters or so, which I couldn't do 800s at mile pace, at least not, and stay healthy.
Right.
So I'll do some like over speed work on that speed day.
It's super interesting to me because, again, like we mentioned, you've gone through, using lever the end of 2019 up until now. And so you've had a chance to sort of experiment for yourself and figure out that, maybe the day after the long run, you don't have to go out there and push through the run. That would just feel terrible outside. So that's like a very first logical step to be like, yeah, I want my form to be good. I don't want to be pounding my legs. But then also, when you're getting ready to do a Monday speed workout too, it helps you feel refreshed. And it's almost just like that linking between the two different types of sessions that you've started to incorporate. Do you feel like when you do go back outside, like you mentioned, running 800s at mile pace, that's definitely impossible for people to do outdoors and stay healthy,
Right.
like you said. But do you feel more efficient in any way, or do you feel like your form or just your general approach to running outside has changed based on incorporating lever for stuff, even like easy runs and speed workouts on the treadmill?
Yeah, it's one of the really neat things I think about the lever, and I've seen it with athletes I work with too. Like, you'll go out for an easy run not thinking anything of it and be like, "Holy, what? How am I running this pace?" And it's
Hmm.
really just the like really great form. Your mechanics are amazing from it, and it and you almost have to slow yourself down. Like, okay, like I can't run hard all the time. You get a little used to it, but yeah, I
Hmm.
mean the mechanics that it helps you with. If you can sit back on the lever and you can, kind of do yourself a disservice, just like
Hmm.
you can on the Ultra G. But if you're thinking about it when you're on it and you're kind of forcing yourself, I need to keep my chest up. I need to make sure like my glutes are engaged. As long as you're doing those things, it can help immensely with your form. And I mean, I've a lot of the athletes I've worked with have commented on like, how's this happening? And I'm like, I know, just calm down, try to slow it down a little bit. It's okay if it's a little quick, but don't let yourself get carried away every day.
Hmm.
But using the lever just really I think it creates like really awesome neuromuscular response that, yeah, I mean, I've never done anything else that's created that.
Yeah. You mentioned you had dealt with some Achilles issues leading into the, ever since high school, but leading up to, the 2020 trials. Have you had, regular aches and pains that have caused you to stop training since you started using lever? Or what has your approach been for that? If you've had normal training aches and pains and then you might have to take some time off, how have you maybe incorporated body weight support to address those sort of things?
Yeah. I actually tore the other Achilles, just trying to get back on the road a little too fast,
Hmm.
I think. Which bilateral Achilles tears doesn't really make good sense for like no one can come up with a great reason why it happened, but it happened.
Hmm.
And so I actually had the surgery on the other one. And so we'll go from since then. So
Hmm.
since both of my Achilles have been repaired, I have had little things crop up. I mean, I'm still running really hard. I'm still training pretty hard. And I mean, when I was coming back with a little extra weight too. So, I mean, there were some things in there that played a role. And I have two kids. So sometimes, I don't get enough sleep or
Right.
I get anxious and I don't sleep well. I don't rest well. And so I have had things crop up, nothing super serious, but I'll just hop on the lever instead. Like I'm planning, if I was planning to do 10 today and I woke up and something was hurting, I would not every time I have a little ache or pain, but if something's been like, that's been nagging for a couple days, I'll hop on the lever and make my run be a lever run instead of an easy run. And, I've found that that's really similar to cross training, choosing to get in the pool or get on the elliptical instead. It takes a ton of pressure off your body but you still get movement. So you still get blood flow. So things heal up a lot quicker that way.
Yeah, the thing that, before I had even heard of lever, before lever was a thing, I remember back in college and, like early 2010, 2011, getting in the pool, doing aqua jogging or using the elliptical and just saying like, I know this is good cross training, but I wish there was something even more specific
Yeah.
to, the running movement. And then when you can actually be running and moving the blood around, like you said, and working on that form and that sort of skill and technique of running that we sometimes forget is a thing we have to practice too. And we can't just roll out of bed or like go out after work and stuff. It becomes a really, really valuable training tool as well. The last sort of question that I have is, like you mentioned, you've been using lever for a couple of years. You've had, athletes that you've talked to that are using it too. If somebody's like on the fence, or if you've heard questions before like, okay, why should I use it though, like what is, the main reason it's going to benefit me, what would you talk to, or what would you say to somebody who might be on the fence of incorporating body weight support in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having the ability to take the body weight off it's kind of invaluable. There's just so many good things you can do with it. I wish, once every person I've talked about, like once you get one in your home and you're on it, you'll see what I mean. And I haven't been wrong yet. You know, just being able to use it, being able to like take one day that we're calling that you would have to take a rest day or
Mhm.
you're risking big injury, being able to run that day for someone who's training really hard or just wants to be able to run 5 days a week. I mean, it goes such a long way. You know, I've had people say, but I hate the treadmill. I don't want to be on a treadmill. You know what? Treadmill can stink. But when you start seeing the results that come from being able to do it, it's totally worth it. So I took Lever to the camp that I host this year because I just want people to be on it, to be able to
Mhm.
see, how great it was. And a number of people came home and purchased a Lever, like being able to, like a large number, like being able to feel, see what it feels like and really be like, oh, wow, like this could be beneficial, I think goes a long way. And I'm talking, people who are running 4 hours, 5 hours in the marathon, as well as, people training to try to qualify to the Olympic trials. There's so much good that can be done just to, be able to be on your feet, be able to get that sort of recovery run in without having to sacrifice your body.
Yeah, absolutely. The last question I have is if
Mhm.
people want to keep up to date with your training journey as you are still very, very competitive in distance running, especially on the road, is there a place that they might be able to follow your sort of progress in training?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram's a great place to see like just my like, the highlight reel generally, or hear my thoughts every now and again. And my name is Becki, spelled Becky with an I and then Spell. But I also have my Strava's private. Sorry guys. I don't like the maps, but I know that you can hide them, but I just
Mhm.
get antsy. But I also use Running Twin,
Mhm.
and everything's logged on there. So yeah, just click on Becky. Good old Becky.
Sweet. I love it. I am a previous avid Running to Win user as well, and I've read your log many times. But then also enjoy all the training updates. You give via your Instagram, and we'll link the Instagram and the show notes too if people want to be able to follow along. Becky, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on. We
absolutely.
appreciate all your insight, all your advice. You are the my go-to lever expert when it comes to talking about how to incorporate stuff for trying to train competitively and just run and have fun and have some workout ideas on it as well. So we appreciate you taking the time. Thank you again so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.